Okay, we are back in the room. Hello, everyone. We're back. I forgot to do the exclamation mark break. Oh, Bob took care of it because he's an absolute legend. I was thinking while I went to loo because all the best thinking occurs while on the toilet. But like legit, like the game does have a good level of diversity. There were a couple of things that were tropey, and I was like,
Of course.
kind of aggravate me. But like it is kind of light years ahead of other things. But like by the same token, the fact that even we're able to, albeit from perhaps an unqualified standpoint, like discuss it and even like be able to have the discussion about these representations in games is still kind of impressive.
It is.
You know?
It is. But that's also what I like about the game is that more than just being a game, it's going to make you think in general, whether you have an interest in video games from a design standpoint or from a content standpoint, or even just because you're a gamer and you like playing games. Well, it will make you think. And well, in my opinion, those are the best games.
All right, well let's kick off, and I'm sure you've got another point because I'm sure I raised another one. But let's just get into this other little debate, and it's going to be a bit short because we probably agree. But yeah, I love what you said there, in that it's like the best games are the ones that make you think, and like if you can play a
yes.
game and then have like, as we're having like what will essentially be over several days, weeks, hours of conversation about it, like that's pretty good. Like there's not
It is amazing.
that many games that you just like that you finish, and you can say it's a good game, it's well made, good story, but you get into that debate of like, well, are video games art? 100% yes, they are. And then sort of breach into like, well, can video games teach us anything? And that's
Ooh,
like,
that's exactly what we do, isn't it?
oh, look at that,
Look
relating it
at
back
it.
to work.
Learn
Someone,
from
can I
this.
clock this as working hours at this point?
Yes. Okay. My direct, straight, clear answer: yes. Games are an educational tool. They're a social educational tool. I'm sorry, Charlie, I keep referring to you, but yes, Charlie can also attest to that. Um, yes, and Charlie's just saying, and games that are so open for research, fun research. Yes,
Well, okay,
yes.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to take this opportunity to toot your horn for you, because I was having a conversation with one of my PhD supervisors, Dr. Liam Cross. I've told you this story, so feel free
Yes,
to laugh.
I
That's the
know.
thing. But we were chatting because he had seen that I was playing Detroit. It's one of his favorite games. We were chatting about it, and he was like, "Oh, I'm speaking with someone about it, potentially looking at doing some research on the game because it's so interesting. Who'd done the masters on it?" And I was like, "Yo, that sounds like my pal Auxane. Like we're gonna do this." About it, like you got me into the game, like that's the whole thing. And he's like, oh yeah, Auxane. I was like, see, it's such a small world in the game studies world that people are talking about you without you even knowing. And you're
I
like,
know.
oh, like Chris, you should get involved. I'm like, heck yes, let's do the thing.
Please, please. That made my day. And just a little wink to Charlie as well on that.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
has an interest on working with that game as well.
But just like
But we'll talk
look at
about
your
that.
reputation preceding yourself. You know what I mean?
Look at my reputation. Not at all. Not at all. It's just I am a monomaniac person apparently that has one game attached to her work, and that's about it. So yeah, but this is such an amazing game for so many reasons. And referring to my master thesis, so it was a couple years ago now, or not? Yeah, something like that,
I
a
mean,
year and a half.
what year is it?
20, I got my diploma in 2020 and we're in 2022.
So yeah,
There you
couple
go.
years ago, yeah.
A couple years ago, I started running the experiments. What came out of the research, I was doing a research on changing people's opinion through gaming. And I had them play Kara for her first and second chapter. So the chapter that is basically a tutorial, and the chapter that is the moment she has to break the code and go save Alice. And the way to do it can be multiple, basically. She can kill the person, not kill the person, whatever. You can even fail, which I didn't know, but I've seen people fail. So thanks, Charlie.
Rude to me.
And so my idea, or our idea with my supervisor at the time, Dean McDonald, just going to name him, he deserves it as well. He supported me through this. So Dean and I thought, okay, maybe because of the identification that will happen, this moment when you're going to play and you're going to become Kara because of all the emotional thing happening, it might change your opinion on androids. Just because instead of seeing them as tools, you're going to start seeing them as more like a human, or at least a sentient being, especially because you break the code. So you make an android become sentient.
I love that moment. I remember you pointing out, you love my reaction. Like,
yeah. I was like, yes, do it.
I was like, this is so sick. Like,
it's so cool. And so it worked. Here's basically what happens is that people played the game, and before and after, right after, their opinion already changed on a lot of things regarding androids. And what's fascinating is that it's science, crazy stuff. Some people in my class did the experiment because they're really nice and they wanted to give me 30 minutes of their life. And a few weeks later, one of them came to me and he's like, we need to talk because your experiment changed something. And I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do? I'm sorry, apologies. It went through an ethics board, I swear. And
I swear, like,
I swear. And so for those of you who don't know, when you do experiment, you ask an ethics board that is going to vet that you are allowed to do this experiment or not, because it's not going to hurt people. And so basically he said, look, I avoid in my life to work with AI. And he was a manager in a company that had AI technology in manufacturing. He said, look, usually I avoid working with those AIs because I don't like them. I don't trust them. That's weird. AI is weird. But now that I've played the game and that I've done your experiment, I'm actually way more keen on working with AIs, and I actually understand way better how they work. And I thought this was amazing because this is a real life impact on someone that didn't want to work with AI and ended up now being keen on working with them and actually enjoying it. This is crazy. There you go. That's it.
Bob was in the I avoid AI camp as well. Even
we'll play the game, Gob.
Well, I mean, yeah. If I was going to be cynical, and I'm not dunking on your research, but I was like, if you play the whole game, your opinion may yet shift further.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So. Well, now the problem, you can have if you play the game like Chris did, is that you're going to think AI is really going to take over and kill humans. Don't do it. In my gameplay, that didn't happen.
I mean, that's just what I wanted. So I made my decisions. I wanted peace, the humans, and it touched on it. It was actually one of my favorite lines. But like, if you look at human history, it's just all violence and war. And I was like, yeah, do you know what? Screw humans, we're the problem. Like,
there is a lot of it, but I think it's also a cognitive bias, isn't it? That's the psychology now talking. We have the cognitive bias of remembering the bad more than the good. And that's how we survive best. But that's also how we're turning into Chris being super negative about everything. But yeah, anyway, this game is amazing. It changes people's opinion, or at least hopefully makes them think for a second. And that was the goal of this game. This game had an aim at really making people think for a second about the future of technology. And I think that's where our conversation is going to go at some point. Just one thing on Marcus removing his face and basically being white-faced for his TV appearance, his big moment.
His big moment.
His big moment. I think a lot of it was due to anonymity more than anything.
I thought that, but I think because at the time we hadn't seen that like they could do that, it like
true.
really felt like abrasively like white facing. I guess. Like,
Yeah. Especially because Marcus is not white. It's even more of a change, you know.
yeah. So I'm kind of conscious. I think he removed his face to be every android. Yeah. That I think.
Yeah, exactly.
I am conscious of the fact that women in games have been nice to host us for a couple of hours. So let's talk about a few of the positives, and then after that we can then just carry on chewing the fat on a few more
Yeah.
issues.
Oh,
Get
there's
yourself
so many things.
a beverage, pull your feet up, and enjoy the conversation. I say that because I see you topping up your glass. I'm like, everyone should do that. Stay hydrated, people. It's
Oh
important.
yeah.
Um,
This is Cola Zero night for
but
me.
some of the positives, and I think one of the most powerful scenes, is the one immediately when you leave the actually, let's just talk about Connor's storyline, because I actually think,
Ooh.
despite the fact that it was a bit memey, I
Yeah.
really enjoyed the way. And again, this cannot happen if he dies, because apparently that's the bit that gets reset. The software control
Yeah.
that allows you to go deviant. But like the way he learns empathy, and it comes to that moment where like he chooses whether or not to shoot the Chloe. But even with the way like he deals with
This was the worst decision ever to make. Okay, let's go back to that decision. Do I shoot Chloe or not? My rational brain was saying, well, shoot it. You'll get the answer. My emotional brain was saying, don't fucking touch that android. Apologies for the F word. Just don't. Because yeah, I mean, as me, I wouldn't shoot an android. I just wouldn't. It's no, especially knowing that you're playing the other characters and you're aware of that they're a bit more than software and hardware. So yeah.
But even
how did you feel about it?
Even like I loved it. Like even like the end scene where he goes into the thing and he like and he's speaking with Hank, and you get the chance to prove that you're the real Connor by talking about his son. And like as he has that realization, like you see Connor like, and that's him like he's already deviant at that point, but like he's understanding the empathy. And I consider like empathy is a skill that, in my opinion, not enough people have. Like that development, like because you have the memey bit again at the start where like he's looking at his desk and is like, "Oh, you like this music? Me too." Like, and then as he gradually learns that as a skill, like that was like really really well done. I really really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Like he leaves and he's like he doesn't want to shoot the Chloe. He's like I just couldn't do it. Like that.
No.
Really, really good. So yeah, in chat with Charlie there, when we played, we accidentally killed Connor 3/4 of the 3/4 of the way through, so we were super attached. That was really hard. I'll tell you. So another moment.
Horrible.
There is a clip of it on my channel, but like the bit where you're trying to find the deviant, like in the TV station. And actually, this is sorry, I'm getting gripey again. But like where Connor gets like stabbed through the hand and is stuck to the counter, and like you have to go and grab your like heart piece thing. There were a couple of moments like that in the game where like you just had to pan far enough to find the action button, and like I made that with like 15 seconds. So it looked really dramatic and cool, like I'd staged it. But like I was just like, where's the option? Like I can't find anything. And it was almost like pure luck that I found it and was able to carry on. Otherwise, he'd have died there, would have been replaced, and that would have completely blew my playthrough. Connor's story was probably the best storyline, even if it was a buddy cop in the first half.
Yeah.
Oh, how do we feel about that opinion?
I identified more with Kara for obvious reasons that are that
a gender bias, is that?
A gender bias, are we talking? Gender and age bias, because Kara looks like we would be about the same age. And also, yeah, I mean, I have a nephew who's a kid, a really young person at this point, and therefore the Alice storyline definitely resonated with protect the child at all cost.
Fancy Brown is verified acting god. Fair.
But I do like I do love actually how the character develops. And just to answer quickly on the killing Connor, I killed Connor as well. That was not on purpose. But he died in the end. He died when he tried to go help all the other androids. Like in the warehouse. Yeah.
The witch Connor's the GG for me for not killing Connor, absolute legend. I did really love it. Was again a trope, but like the which Connor's the real Connor and how do you prove it? Like that was like, because again, to praise the game, even though there were moments at the beginning where I didn't necessarily care about the characters, like I was never really like attached. To be honest, I think that was one of the things where like I never felt like emotionally involved in the actual characters. But there was some moments where like I felt the tension of the moment. Like almost like as a person who plays games, I was like as a game player, I was like, oh, this is a really tense moment. Like the ATEs, the action time events, because I'm really bad at them. Like generally speaking, I'm blind and it's based on timing reactions. Okay, but like those like moments of like tension were genuinely really exciting, like pulsating to me.
Yeah. But that killed me. I think I don't remember who killed me. Is it Connor? It was not the second Connor. It was the cop, because but not the cop that we're friends with. It's not another Hank. Cop, like the FBI guy or something. I don't remember exactly who killed my Connor. But
who killed my Connor?
And just before in a sentence, I said I don't remember who killed me. So identification right there. But yeah. I had a moment of hatred at this point. And sadness. Yeah, I was really mad. It's like, who dares to kill my Connor? Wait a second, I'll send Marcus after you. You'll see. Marcus won though. Marcus 100% won, and the camps were reopened, and everyone could fly. And no one died in the camps in my characters. And Luther was already dead before, so he couldn't die there.
That's actually something I didn't ask you, but like what? So I mean, you've kind of touched on it, but like, what was your ending? Like, what decisions did you make? And this is a good question actually. I'll send Marcus after you. Like, what do you think are the most pivotal choices in the game? Like the biggest decisions that like hinge the most?
For me, and it was more internal than in the game, but it reflected in all of my decisions after that with Marcus. It was to decide the moment, the action I was going to take. So the moment I had to decide which leader will I be for my android, and why. Also, I really asked myself that question of, do I want in the future androids to be violent? I don't. I personally don't think that androids should have the opportunity to even have the ability to be violent. Because this is not a world where I want to live in. If we create things that can be violent on purpose, especially, and here I'm talking about normal society, civil society, not a war zone at all. Mm-hmm. So we're removing this part from the equation of what I'm saying.
Yeah, the world would be a better place if it was peaceful, right? Like if you remove people's capacity for violence, that's probably a good thing.
Exactly. And if we're going to create human-like-ish technologies, I don't want them to be violent. I don't want them to have the violence, the anger, the pain. I don't want them to have all that. Mm-hmm. Therefore, I don't want them to be able to kick anyone, and therefore, I don't want Marcus to kick people.
Well, this is a Bob said it's a sort of off subject, but it's like it kind of relates to this. Do you think androids should be in policing then? Because it could be argued that in the process of police, I'm going to choose my words very carefully here, but in the process of policing people, harm can be done to people intentionally or not. Such as like the moment you're chasing the guy on the rooftops.
Yeah.
Like, you'd have to physically accost them to catch. I mean, for me, like it was a no-brainer to like pick up Hank, like,
So that's a global ethical question. First of all, I'm sorry, this answer is going to be so serious. First of all,
a serious really conversation on this stream, I think.
No, let's not do it. It's going to depend a lot on the culture. I can tell you that there is some countries and some cultures where this technology would be accepted and has been implemented, not androids, but technology like drones and CCTV. So some countries have already implemented technologies in their policing. I can give you a few examples, such as CCTV in China. And I'm not going to go as far as talking about facial recognition, but we know it has been discussed in the media. You also have countries that would be fully against it because of the data protection. And welcome to Europe. And especially I am based in Germany, and I would say welcome in Germany. That might never happen in Germany for the reason of data privacy. Mm-hmm. And then you have countries that might be in between. And here I'm going to cite the US, which have a really strong technology side, policy-wise law-wise regarding data and privacy, because that would be the main issue, I'm going to guess, on the first level. They're not so strong, but they're getting there. I mean, there is some advancements happening, especially with the implementation of artificial intelligence in a more broader sense. I told you, really serious answer. And then if we go as far as talking about robots being involved in policing, I can see robots being involved, but I want to reassure everyone that Europe, the European Union, is at the moment building a law. I know you miss it, don't you? Yeah, I feel you. I can imagine. EU is building a law at the moment. You can already have access to the draft and the first changes, called the AI Act, or at least that's what they want to call it. That basically will put a level of risk depending on the technology you're using, not depending on the sector, which is important. It's an important note. It's not in healthcare, in this technology will be more important than in others. No, the risk comes with the ability of the technology, of the AI technology, and whatever the sector. And human outside of the loop is not a thing for the AI in the future, especially for that kind of technology that would be considered high risk. So humans will always be in the loop. Now, will we have assistant robots to humans in policing? I do hope so, because it might remove some violence that is unnecessary, but assistance with strict regulations. And strict regulations in the AI design as well. I hope that answered your question. I'm sure this is super long. I'm sorry.
So I have a couple of springboards I want to go off this, and one of them is actually on. I'm going to do the classic academic here and say I read a paper once, and it was looking at the use of going beyond policing, but actually using AI in the judicial system. And
no, we're not talking about that. This is the worst case scenario, never happening, never ever implemented. AI will not make decisions based on bias.
This is the point that I was going to make, because in the paper it had an AI run through I think like a couple thousand cases that had gone through a jury, where like I think like later they'd been thrown out or something had been found to be wrong in the conviction, like it was wrong convictions or something, maybe.
Okay.
Where like, so like we'd known a jury had convicted, and then like that was it was ages ago I read it. This is why I sound so daft. But it was like the AI had actually given the right outcome for all of the cases, and it was like kind of like, would we ever get? Because if you remove people, do you not remove those inherent? And we could get into a debate about like the people running the judicial system, and again, like big proportion of judges in the UK are white males over a certain age, and the whole like thing, and again side tangent, but like in the UK, if you commit a very serious crime, you go to a court where your peers, quote unquote, a jury, and we could debate what that meant all night.
Yes.
A jury decide whether you are guilty or not, but a judge decides your punishment. Whereas if it's not deemed serious enough, you will go to a magistrate's court where 3 random people, it could be me, you, and Bob, will decide your fate, whether you go to prison or not, whether you pay a fine. And there is an argument that if you remove, say, all 3 of us are different biases, if you remove those, and have an algorithm work it out based on facts, quote unquote, that would be better.
I have an answer for that. Tell me when I can start shouting.
Go.
Algorithms, as rational as they are just that. They're calculators. They cannot, in my opinion, fit into society as decisionary because they do not take into account emotions, which is the basis of human interaction and human society. We do not follow social norms because this is the rule. We follow social norms because we have a social group that keeps us in line. And if we end up in jail and doing something criminal, and here I'm not even going to talk about just stealing, I'm talking about criminal activities such as killing, hurting, willing to kill, raping, that kind of really out of all lines of respect for another human.
Well, it's the point. That point is really important to make because there is like a government can say that any one thing is illegal or not. I mean, again, like there's been a lot of discussion in the UK about the right to protest and that being made completely illegal. For example, just to spit that out there, I don't have left.
Did they want to make it illegal? I'm sorry, I'm French.
Oh no! So like there is a very active movement at the moment where the government are looking to pass a bill whereby you will be arrested for protesting if they deem it not to be an appropriate protest. Which is like it's one of those like really big issues that just seem to get missed by a lot of people.
Oh wow, that wouldn't have even been a discussion for more than 10 minutes in France. I know that we had discussions about that due to COVID. But the right to protest is a human right of self-expression. Sorry, being extremely French here, that revolution and that kind of stuff.
But yeah, so that's a big issue.
Going back to androids, sorry, and to AIs.
But so like images. That, like like that's a government imposing a law that it wants to make a specific action illegal. What we're talking about is like where virtually unanimously everyone can agree that's a wrong thing to do. That's what we're talking about.
Yes,
so like that level of seriousness.
This is how criminality is defined, right? It's about breaking the social peace and the social norm to a point where you deserve to be removed from society. People forget that jail is literally meant to remove people from society. This is, as humans, therefore social animals, is the worst thing you can do to someone. It's one of the basic needs of a human. It is society, it is a community, it is a group, social interaction. And if you put someone in high security jail with isolation as a norm, you're going to make them crazy on purpose. Some people get out of there non-crazy and good for them. But the truth is that this is torture. This is psychological torture. This is fully another question of who deserves it, why not. I'm not a lawyer, I am not a jurist, I do not know all the laws, but from my personal perspective, an AI does not have the tools because, as Charlie said really well, they have no nuance. All of it comes from ethics and cultural nuance and societal nuance.
I mean, my background, my undergrad was in forensic psychology and criminal justice. So we did like criminology, we looked at law, we looked at criminal justice as like a concept and, even elements of like power. And like, I think it's a bit reductive, but like to the point where like essentially the whole reason punishment exists is to impose a consequence for actions, right? When we talk about prison, that is meant to be like, well, you are, no longer able to be part of society because you have breached I'm going to say social laws specifically, but like you have gone so far, the society wants you to be removed. And like, I'll throw it out there, I'm a big fan of like rehabilitation, not just like locking away the key kind of, kind of business. Because, as you mentioned, it does have a huge effect on like people's mental health and stuff. And and that type of thing. I'm not an expert either. These largely rooted on like some information, but mostly opinion, so that's worth pointing that out. But like, so that's why I brought that up. The second thing is, and this does actually come out in the game, I'm just conscious of time, but like, so I have an opinion, but it's going on that whole, like, when we think about androids in the way that they're presented in Detroit, the argument of, and it feeds into a political debate, but they're taking our jobs. something that comes out with the guy. I forget.
Yes, sorry.
I forget his name. But like the guy in the house with their car, like he was like, oh well, I
Yeah,
lost my
yeah,
job to an
the
actress.
FBI guy, whatever, and also the guy that had owned Kara
Yeah.
initially.
Like this old sort of they took our jobs, and yeah, it's a trope, and it's something that again Brexit heavy kind of informed as a discussion in the UK. Now, oh, we got a book. Go on,
Just gonna put this out there.
give it a little
There's
shout out for us.
really, really, really good part on this on why robots are not gonna take your job. There you go.
I can
That's
see
it.
all
They're
the
gonna.
sticky notes in there. That's like, oof.
This is the equivalent of my Bible.
Can
It
you
is
can
an
you read
amazing
the
book.
title and author
Of
for us?
course, The New Breed from Kate Darling that belongs to or works at the MIT Media Lab. Kate Darling, that was one of the first person that did experiment on empathy and social robots or robots in general. And if you're interested in robots, go read her work. She's from law initially, which makes all of that even more
Delicious.
kind of relevant. Exactly. And her last book, it was published in April 2021, called The New Breed: What Our History with Animals Reveals About Our Future with Robots. And a lot of my argumentation is taken from that book. And some
Bob
work
being an absolute ledge, just dropping the title in the chat for that. Anyone wants to copy and paste that right now.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you.
The reason,
but yes,
sorry, the reason I bring that up is because I worked in like a mini supermarket, a convenience store for those in the US, like a small one, and like people would always sort of come in and be like, "Oh, I'm not using those self-service tills." Oh, I mean they're not great. Side note, but like, oh, they're I don't use them because they're taking jobs away, and I'm like, I worked in a shop, like that's not no. That means that they can actually make more money because they get all the people doing stuff the robots can't do, like putting stock out. So like if it was quiet and self-service was fine, more people would be on stock. Like people what you called in as a last resort when you needed when the queue was big. Because that meant we could all move more stock. More stock meant more units, which meant more money, which meant more hours for the staff. So I was like, actually, like in that, it's really they're not taking anyone's jobs; they're facilitating more work, which in the context of business makes more money, which means there's more hours. Because again, like the way the store functioned was like the greater the profits, the more hours they could offer to staff. Right, those more because again, separate issue, but contracting was you'd have like a really small hour contract, like a couple of, like say like 2 shifts, like 12 hours, 10 hours, and it'd be like, well, you can pick up the rest, on your overtime. And then if there wasn't overtime, you'd just be restricted to those contracted hours. So that was like the whole play. Less times being called in and ruining your weekend. Exactly. Why wouldn't people want that?
There's a big discussion about working less as well since COVID and a bit before as well. I think at least in France, I know this has been discussed before, and we are renowned to be the only country in the world with 35 hours a week. As a legal standpoint. Yes, we work 35 hours a week. Let me tell you that when I started working in Ireland, I was shocked. They were asking me for 40 hours. I was like, who does that? And then I realized everyone else. That is who does that. So yes, in France at least, and I think a bit more everywhere now due to COVID, people are thinking about balance between private and work life.
There is a lot of like discussion around like particularly I think I'm gonna say tentatively because this is like me seeing a news report, but like there is some research, quote unquote, that has suggested that actually people work better when say you have a 4-day work week because instead of going, oh well I'll do that tomorrow and procrastinating, you go, well I have less time to do it and therefore are more proactive in your job load. Especially on
France
the understanding
produces as much as the other ones.
Especially when you sort of put that up against, oh, well, I have more free time. And honestly, like, my experience of working in an office, true. Like, I was like, I can get that tomorrow. And you'd be a bit more lackadaisical. I think, as ever, the counterbalance of that is that, like, that doesn't apply to people that just have too much to do. And are overworked and given too much.
But that's another discussion. But I mean, we can probably speak firsthand of the never-ending to-do list and we could be working, and I'm talking for probably most of the academics now, we could be working nonstop from the moment we are awake to the moment we fall asleep and still not get to the end of that to-do list. So
I never ever stop working. It's a nightmare.
yeah, that's a skill that you acquire at some point, to say no.
I was gonna say a skill, like it's more like a curse.
It is, because now you feel guilty. I played Assassin's Creed Valhalla today, and I went to a restaurant with some friends, and I felt the guilt of the 3 articles I'm supposed to be writing right now not being written. And I decided this was a problem for Monday, because Monday is a normal day to work. Saturday, Sunday are not meant to work. So, but this is another discussion. If we go back to the idea of more normal 9-to-5 jobs that do not require office time, that can be more physical, for example, robots can be there. There is a big discussion in healthcare, because healthcare is a great place to put robots. The pandemic showed it, but the Japanese knew that before. There is a big discussion about having robots that are able to lift the patients that need help to walk, to save our healthcare workers, such as nurses, and I don't know the term in English, but I'm going to guess assistant nurses or helper.
There's so many like healthcare assistants. It literally depends on how much
those
they're paying
people
you.
that work. Okay. People that work with patients firsthand, let's say. So nurses and carers. Exactly. All of them. By the age of 55, if they work with populations that are either aging or have physical disabilities or develop physical problems for walking, their back is shot. There is no more back. Age 55.
There is no more back.
There is no more back. When is retirement? Not at age 55. I don't believe there is, even in France, it's not at age 55.
Even
in France. So this is not okay. And also, when did it become okay to say, oh yeah, I'm going to break my back in my job and I'm aware of it, and then my retirement will be horrible because my back will be bad? No, let's not do it. And healthcare robots in this context could be super helpful, and they're not here to take the nurse's job. They're here to make the nurse more happy, less broken, and just ease the physical work, because their job is not physical work. It is partly, but physios would have physical work. Their job is to be healthcare carers. And I'm sorry, but lifting people up is not a task that is fully necessary for them to do, if we can remove it.
It is not. It's not like limited to, especially when they could be using that energy and resource for other healthcare related needs.
Oh my gosh. Yes, exactly. And they stop breaking the healthcare people, seriously.
Please, that'd be great.
Please. But then this could be a solution. And also, if you think about the patient, on the patient side, there's a survey that was run in Japan and I think in other countries such as Germany with elderly peoples, to ask them if, first of all, they'd be interested by having healthcare robots, and secondly, for what and why. And a big thing that came back was the bathing situation, because a lot of elderly lose the ability physically to bathe themselves, just because to go into the, how do you call the thing that is not a shower?
The bath?
Yeah, the bath, thank you. Yes, in the bathroom then, yeah, of course. To go into the bath, or even to stand in the shower or go sit down in the shower, is hard for them, and also they might fall. And we know that falling elderlies is a bad thing, because if they break a hip...
Sorry, just falling elderly sounds like an Android game. Like, you've heard of Fall Guys. Have you heard of Falling Elderly? It's like a cheap knockoff. Like,
it's only elderlies falling in different places. That would be hilarious. Anyway, we know that this is actually a way some elderly people die in isolation, and that is terrible. So we're laughing about it, but we're fully aware this is not funny.
I'm a horrible person. Let's just. Sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. Everyone knows it by now. Okay? And
ouch. Oof.
Just joking. But so those people were saying that for their dignity, they would rather have a healthcare. Sorry,
they would rather calling it harsh but true.
Sorry. They would rather have a healthcare robot help them to do those things for a. It's terrible to talk about that now. Yeah.
It's
for
funny.
Dignity.
It's funny that they for something that is essentially so intimate, they want to remove the human element of care, which is I care. You're a person. I care about you enough to allow you to maintain your dignity, but while assisting you with this thing.
Yeah, but this is. I mean, I can understand though. Elderlies are not people that have had to live with that their entire life. And I'm pretty sure that even people that have to live with that their entire life would like a bit of intimacy. And the robot allows for this, in my opinion, because it is not a person. It does not have judgment, no opinions.
That's why I just think it's interesting that it's you say that you would treat intimacy as a very human thing, a very human construct. Yeah. But that they were no, actually I prefer a non-human to do that because that would make me feel better. I think it's a hot take, in my opinion.
But it is fascinating because it means we have a need there as well. I mean, both of us ended up studying psychology at some point, and I'm gonna guess it's not because we're terrible people. It is more because we care about humans in a way.
I mean, I always like to joke that I study humans because we're so inherently broken and flawed. We're interesting.
We're interesting. We are interesting. But at the end of the day, we both talk about mental health a lot, ours and others. So you can be, how do you say, private about this if you want, but I'm putting it out there.
No, you're right. I'm studying student mental health because I care about student mental health as someone with lived experience about how poor the support services are and how important it is that we reduce stigmatization so that we can all have a better and more open attitude towards mental health. All right, you've got me. You've sprung my facade. I'm doing it because I care and would like to see some social change. All right, you got me.
There you go. Yes. But so because we have this perspective, I know we're biased. Mm-hmm. I know that by essence, our opinion will be to help the people and not really think about the rest that is around it, which is, for example, economy, society, and all that kind of big stuff, But for me, that's where our work also lies. And that's for anyone who has an opinion on this, really. It's not just for psychologists or for anyone with a diploma in health. It's more about anyone might have this opinion, and must act on it. And acting on it also means creating games or creating robots or helping towards these ideas to help people. And mental health and games are cool. And Celeste apparently is a really good game. I'm going to say it now. Yeah, there you go. I haven't played it yet. And on the other hand, yes, robots that are here to shower people that cannot shower on their own, please build them because dignity is important. It's a right, and it's a human right, actually. Therefore, it must be worked towards, if you can say that. I'm not sure it makes sense in English, but we must work towards achieving that.
Yeah, and I think, the sour grapes of anything like this is that because you have those greater sort of political, economic kind of things that eventually, like every good thing, gets ruined by business.
Okay, I don't know. Not every good thing gets ruined by business.
Okay,
there is business out there.
No, there is. I feel bad now because the Women in Game stream host is coming to an end. I've just like you were like this beautiful message of hope, and I was like, yeah, but business though. So apologies for that. That's
No,
not
but
the.
there is positive business, and I agree. Is a way to start. So we have to end the host. Thank you so much for this. It's been super interesting, and I will stay watching. Oh yay, Charlie! Bye, the Woman in Games.
Bye everyone. Thank you for hosting. Check us out if you've enjoyed the content.
Yeah.
As usual, give us a like and follow, subscribe. Stream.
Yeah, come talk to us on Twitter. And also, I'm a Women in Games ambassador. You can find me on the Discord.
Nice.
Yeah, I didn't say that.